Connecticut Arts Standards, Webinar 1. Thank you for joining us on this recorded webinar that will provide districts important information pertaining to the incorporation of the Connecticut Arts Standards and the work of the model districts. I would like to introduce the voices behind this webinar. I am Dr. Melissa K. Wildarczyk-Hickey from the State Department of Education. I am currently the Reading Literacy Director and the Director of the Academic Office. Joining me today are Jill Goldberg. Jill was the K-12 Fine Arts Coordinator in the Vernon Public Schools and is currently an Arts Education Consultant. Angela Griffin is the K-12 Director of Music and Performing Arts in the Simsbury Public Schools. And Cindy Parsons is the K-12 Director of Visual Art from the Glastonbury Public Schools. Jill and Angela led the Model District project work. The Glastonbury School District was one of the model districts that created and developed the largest volume and sequence of curricular work as participants in the project. In this webinar series, we will be sharing the work of the model districts. Teaching to the Connecticut Arts Standards webinar targets. Jill, Cindy, Angela, and I have created this series to assist schools and districts in better understanding the history and background of the Connecticut Arts Standards and Connecticut Arts Model curricular work, building an understanding of the Connecticut Arts Standards and the accompanying instructional shifts, and engaging in the process of creating standards-based curricula, instructional materials, and resources. The intent of these three webinars is to provide a dynamic professional learning experience. We have deliberately incorporated breaks into these webinars so that as participants are engaging in the learning, the webinar will be paused for participants to complete meaningful activities. Therefore, individuals leading this work should prepare accordingly by analyzing materials and timing the webinars based on the needs of the participants. Please note that each activity will take about 15 minutes to complete. All materials can be found on the dedicated CFDE Arts webpage. This webinar is the first of three that will be released in the 2018-19 school year. As a result of Webinar 1, you will understand the history and background of the Connecticut Arts Standards, engage in the standards to assist in building an understanding of the standards and the instructional shifts, gain an understanding of the arts curricula writing process utilized by the model districts. In the summer of 2015, a panel comprised of 59 members representing dance, media arts, music, theater, and visual arts, novice, veteran, and retired teachers, and educational and community artists from urban, suburban, and rural perspectives worked collectively to complete a crosswalk of the 1998 Connecticut Arts Curriculum Framework and the new National Arts Standards. Review teams engaged in a thorough crosswalking process that included both individual and group review. It became evident that the major shift in the standards was going from a skills-based approach to a concept-based approach. A team of reviewers then created an introductory art standards presentation that concluded with a 7-question survey eliciting stakeholder feedback. Beginning in September 17, 2015, presentations occurred statewide, providing close to 600 completed surveys. Additionally, other review team members synthesized the collective feedback to draft a position statement on the implementation of the Connecticut Arts Standards. Stakeholders had the opportunity to comment on the draft, which was made available publicly on the CFDE website in March 2016. Also, in the summer of 2016, targeted stakeholder feedback was solicited through a webinar designed for parents, as well as another webinar designed specifically for local Board of Education members. On October 5, 2016, the Connecticut Board of Education adopted the National Core Art Standards and the position statement on the implementation of the Connecticut Arts Standards. The position statement on the implementation of the Connecticut Arts Standards is comprised of two components. The first includes Connecticut's definition of artistic literacy, as well as considerations for implementation across all arts disciplines, dance, media arts, music, theater, visual arts. The second component provides guidelines for various stakeholders to support the implementation of the Connecticut Arts Standards. The position statement represents the combined efforts and feedback of all parties involved. Immediately after the board adopted the standards and position statement, the Connecticut State Department of Education organized a steering committee of arts educators to assist in a statewide professional learning rollout initiative. This steering committee, called the Connecticut Arts Standards Team, or CAST, designed and developed professional learning through a variety of channels, beginning in October 2016 and ending in June 2017. The model resources found in the Connecticut Arts Standards Model District Curriculum document were developed as part of the CAST Professional Learning Rollout Initiative to assist arts educators and administrators in understanding the instructional shifts of the Connecticut Arts Standards. Due to the condensed time frame of the Model District Curriculum project, the Model District Curriculum team produced documents that would equitably benefit the largest cross-section of Connecticut public school arts teachers. The team reviewed the number of arts teachers in each of the disciplines within Connecticut public schools as of November 2016 and found the majority of arts teachers were concentrated in the disciplines of music, 2,139 teachers, and visual art, 1,595 teachers. This is in comparison to teachers practicing in dance, 17 teachers, theater, 56 teachers, and film, media, arts, 17 teachers. Therefore, the scope of these model documents covers documentation for music and visual arts.
So let's take a look at the National Core Arts Standards platform and its structure, for which Connecticut has adopted as its standards. You will hear us refer to this as NCAS as the webinar progresses. First, there are the anchor standards. All 11 anchor standards are the same and universal for all 5 arts disciplines: visual arts, music, dance, theater, and media arts. 2, the standards are each broken by content-specific discipline. And within each content area and anchor standard, there are enduring understandings, corresponding essential questions, and grade level specific performance standards. For those new to the standards and understanding each of the structural functions, please feel free to engage in the optional standards matching activity. The next slides will illustrate specifically where and how to cite each of these components and their relationships in the NCAS platform.
Within each discipline-specific standards document are anchor standards organized by the 4 artistic processes. They're color-coded. There are 11 anchor standards, which are consistent across all 5 arts disciplines. Here we are seeing anchor standard number 1 of the creating process within the visual arts standards. The creating process is color-coded blue. You can see that this anchor standard, generate and conceptual artistic ideas and work, deals with planning and exploration of ideas. Each anchor standard has enduring understandings and essential questions already written to accompany it. You may choose to use these as part of your unit design or curriculum revision, or you might include your own EUs and EQs. Now notice the grade level performance standards, which are assigned to the EUs and EQs in grades pre-K through high school levels. These are content specific. Each performance standard describes conceptually what expectations are for students' art experiences and classroom instruction. This is what we want our students to know and be able to do. You would base units and assessments on the standards that are driving that unit and instruction. Words which are highlighted in red indicate terms and vocabulary that are included in the standards glossary, which is part of the standards document resources. You'll notice along the left side with the vertical text, words that describe the work that students will do as part of this standard. These are called process components. Investigate, plan, and make are some of the process components for this anchor standard.
The National Music Standards are also aligned with the 4 artistic processes: creating, performing, responding, and connecting. The connecting standards do exist for music, but they are embedded in the creating, performing, and responding standards rather than standalone standards. The new music standards provide a structure or sequential progression that aligns with idiosyncratic objectives in unique music classroom settings. The level of rigor and succession across grade levels are representative of grades K-8, as well as specific high school strands for harmonizing instruments, composition and theory, traditional and emerging ensembles, and technology. Students are expected to perform at specific levels within each band as they increase in levels of complexity. The new music standards are also soundly based upon concepts of the 4 C's of the 21st century student learning outcomes: critical thinking and problem solving, communication, collaboration, and creativity. The current slide highlights the location for major components of the music standards: the artistic process, the anchor standard, the process component, enduring understanding, and performance standard are also indicated. Music teachers and school districts may also find the NASME website, National Association for Music Education, to be a more flexible tool in terms of navigating and utilizing the standards on a daily basis.
When the standards review team adopted the NCAS platform, there was an overwhelming consensus of areas that were identified as missing and statements that needed to be included in Connecticut standards as essential for adoption and implementation. Thus, several Connecticut arts education professionals met and worked diligently to create the Connecticut Arts Standards Position Statement. This statement addresses the specific priorities, qualities, and needs for our students in Connecticut. It was adopted as part of the Connecticut Arts Standards by the Connecticut State Board of Education. To assist in understanding the position statement on the implementation of the Connecticut Arts Standards, participants will participate in a popcorn read of the statement. Read the position statement on the implementation of the Connecticut Arts Standards and highlight information that stands out for you in the text. When everyone is finished reading, gather in a circle. One person will start the group by reading a word or a phrase aloud to the group. Other participants search for a phrase they have underlined that matches or connects in some way with the phrase they had just heard. This process continues until there are no more phrases people want to share aloud, until there are no more phrases left to pop. Give no commentary or opinions. Try to connect to what was read. Read short phrases or words only. Pauses can be powerful, and repeating phrases is okay. This shows where a group collectively agrees.
The overall goal for the art standards is artistic literacy for all students in Connecticut. The Connecticut Arts Standards set the guidelines for schools, districts, teachers, and communities to develop artistically literate citizens. An artistically literate citizen has the knowledge, skills, and understanding to actively engage in the arts throughout their lives. This citizen has practice in processes unique to each of the 5 arts disciplines: dance, media arts, music, theater, and visual arts. Although each arts discipline shares common goals written as anchor standards, the approach for each needs to include the development of discipline-specific techniques and skills through the artistic processes of creating, performing, or presenting, responding, and connecting. The creation of art remains central as students focus on imagining, investigating, constructing, and reflecting on the world and their relationship to it. Engaging the arts in such a way allows individuals to develop and eventually attain their true creative potential, while fostering a deeper understanding of what binds us together as human beings artistically, culturally, socially, and emotionally. Artistic literacy cultivates the crucial skills necessary for student success as Connecticut looks towards its social and economic future. This section can be found in opening sections in the position statement. It is the overarching philosophy and goal for Connecticut students as they engage in the art standards. Additionally, there is great language in this document that districts can use while writing and including in their own curricular philosophy and goal statements. It is quite clear and evident that there are some significant differences between the older standards and our new ones. Let's take a closer look at them. The previous standards were predominantly skill-based.
The new standards are conceptual-based. In fact, there are no mention of specific skills identified in the new standards.
The previous standards were focused on students being exposed to a breadth of information, content, skills, and experiences.
The new standards have a strong focus of depth of knowledge and application, again, erring to a conceptual framework.
The previous standards were built around the three artistic processes of creating, performing, and responding.
The new standards now have 4 artistic processes, those being creating, presenting for visual arts or performing for music, responding, and connecting.
The previous standards had 6 art content standards and 9 music content standards, each organized by grade bands of K2, 3-5, 6-8, and 9-12.
In contrast, the new standards have 11 anchor standards that are the same for all 5 arts disciplines, while each arts discipline has specific performance standards for each grade level in pre-K through 8 and 3 different high school performance standards levels. Now, here are some more differences in the previous standards compared to the new ones. These note the implications for instructional shifts and instruction from the previous to the new. The previous standards were content-based, as is noted in those standards being called content standards.
The new standards focus on the expressive intent of students as they engage in the artistic processes.
The previous standards promoted teacher-driven and teacher-led instruction.
The new standards promote student self-discovery and independence through student voice and student choice.
The previous standards' emphasis was on product.
The new standards' emphasis is on process.
The previous standards use a discipline-based approach to instruction.
The new standards promote the development of artistic literacy in students as the combination and connections of the 4 artistic processes. They also promote instructional connections to Connecticut's core standards for all other disciplines and state frameworks. Let's take a look at what the Connecticut standards mean to us and how the standards will drive what we want students to know and be able to do.
In order to better understand this, let's participate in an activity to unwrap some standards. This activity will additionally assist us as we develop standards-based curricula and instructional practice. Please find this activity in the resource addendum. The next slide will guide you in completing the activity.
The purpose of this activity is to identify the knowledge and skills the standards are requiring students to know and be able to do. It is important to understand that the standards will drive curriculum planning, instruction, instructional practices, assessment, and student achievement. While recognizing that the standards do not include or mention our past practices of skill development, content, or subject matter, our process will ultimately lead you to align these very critical and important components to the standards.
Please use the Unwrapping the Standards activity found in the resource addendum. Number 1, you will select one standard from each of the 4 artistic processes and write it out in its entirety while including the coding. Please see the example on the slide as a model. 2, identify the nouns in each standard for knowledge and highlight them in yellow. 3, identify the verbs in each standard for skills and highlight them in blue. Please make sure to save your completed activity as it will assist you in the development process.
Hopefully, this activity will provide you with a better understanding of what these standards are intending and saying, and that this will lead and guide you through the development process.
The Connecticut Arts Standards team was comprised of a variety of arts professionals from urban and suburban districts. Joy Supples, the Model District Curriculum Project Manager, met initially with art and music model district coaches Jill Goldberg and Angela Griffin in order to outline the scope of the project and to plan a large-scale outline and timeline for the overall project. Jill Goldberg and Angela Griffin designed a series of professional development sessions for the model districts at various locations. Connecticut model districts selected for the project included music and art professionals from Brookfield, Danbury, East Hartford, New Britain, and Glastonbury. All arts professionals involved worked intensely in content-based professional development sessions that led participants through the development of standards-based model curriculum, instructional units and assessments, where they were reviewed by the Model District Curriculum Review Team. Final units, assessments, and scope and sequences were reviewed and presented at the 2017 Connecticut Arts Institute at Central Connecticut State University, where Model District teachers presented their work to participants of the Curriculum Arts Institute. Model District Curriculum Unit writers and reviewers were as follows. Model District Curriculum writers, Brookfield Public Schools, Margaret Fitzgerald, Tracy Greenberg, Lynn Orzelik. Danbury Public Schools, Elizabeth Dandino, Katie Ori, Kimberly Russell, Jill Russell Benner. Middletown Public Schools, Stacy Blackman, Nicole Iavani, Allison Kay, Julie Schvetz. Consolidated School District of New Britain, Rachel DuPont, Kristen Levette, Ashley Ledovico, Jenna Lombardo, Suzanne O'Connor, Karen Sacadato. East Hartford Public Schools, Elizabeth Bianco, Roberta Collins, Nick Diaz, Tracy Kane, Patty O'Sullivan, Gloria Nicholson, Christian Siegel. Glastonbury Public Schools, Adriana Sarasani, Holly Constantine, Sandra Gustafson, Lynn Lettieri, Patty Lignelli, Leslie Lopez, Dawn Mistretta, Jessica Morissette, Ethan Nash, Steve Niestrup, Cindy Parsons, Stacy Tinker. Model District Curriculum Review Team, Laurel Archambault, Maureen Barasek, Jacqueline Giamatti, Damaris Hansen, Adrian Keogh, Joy Supples, Scott Schuler. 13 districts applied to participate in the Model District project, and 6 were selected. Selection was based to establish a representation from different DIRGs in the state. The entire process, templates, and work were created specifically to create and institute equity amongst district and students across the state. Furthermore, understanding that every district has their own curriculum process and accompanying templates, the goal was for districts to be able to utilize this work and apply it to their own district process, documents, templates as best fit their needs. we can inevitably find the parallels in all curricula of the same essential components of curriculum. The goal here is understanding the process. The districts worked from February 2017 to May 2017 under tight timelines. Each district team met for 6 4-hour professional development sessions. During this period of time, 38 standards-based instructional units, assessments, and district scope and sequence were created. We will be referring to these throughout the following webinars and sharing examples. Additionally, all of this work can be found on the CSDE website.
We developed a 3-step process, and as mentioned earlier, all of the components included in this process are included in district curriculum development in some form or another. The process began with the districts establishing benchmarked grade levels from which to work for grades 2, 5, 8, and each level of high school proficiency. Each of the 6 districts committed to varying levels of work based on their application and staff participation in the process. Next, to begin step 1 of the process, each benchmarked level started the development of a standards-based instructional unit. Let's define how we are referring to a unit here. A unit here has a defined outcome expectation with a sequence of instructional learning activities. These learning activities will lead students to attaining the established learning objectives in order to meet the outcome. The unit template is based on a UBD or Understanding by Design model or protocol where first, set learning goals. In this case, it will be the standards. And learning objectives. Second, design the summative assessment and rubrics to measure how and to what level students attain the objectives. And then through backwards design, build the instruction, instructional activities, and resources around that.
Step 2 is the formulation of a summative assessment. This portion of the process is completed immediately following the creation and establishment of learning objectives as they are aligned to the standards driving the unit. It continues the backwards design concept by defining what students will be expected to know and be able to do and the specific levels of student achievement within each learning outcome. The backwards design process is reinforced as the remainder of the unit is developed through the instructional process and activities that will be built around this assessment and that will lead and support students to attain learning objectives.
Lastly, once all of the instructional units are developed and completed, they can be entered into this scope and sequence as we develop for step 3 and for districts to utilize for curriculum development. It will provide programs with the standards, knowledge, and skills that students will know and be able to do at each grade level. They can continue to develop further from there by identifying areas of need within the program and specific grade levels, and can continue to develop additional grade level specific instructional units. The units can become utilized for common assessments, SLOs, and or just classroom application by setting these as expectations for program and instruction.
Thank you for joining Angela, Cindy, Jill, and me for this webinar. As a result of webinar 1, you now have a better understanding of the history and background of the Connecticut Arts Standards and have engaged in the standards to assist in building an understanding of the standards and the instructional shifts. You have also gained an understanding of the arts curricula writing process utilized by the model districts. Look for the next 2 webinars to be released towards the end of March and May. Each summer, several members of the Connecticut Arts Administrators Association present the Connecticut Arts Institute, which provides an opportunity for arts educators from across the state to meet and work on arts-related curricula and assessments. Staff may want to bring their work to this year's Institute to receive expert arts advice and guidance on their documents. For more information on the upcoming 2019 Summer Institute, contact Rick Stadlin, the Director of Music for the Darien Public Schools, at rsadlon@darien.org. Thank you for joining us in this learning experience. The CSDE greatly appreciates the time and energy Jill, Sandy, and Angela donated to this webinar series. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me at melissa.hickey@ct.gov, melissa.hickey@ct.gov.